thanks for coming out today to hear me talk about the process of learning to grow. So my name is Deryn Greer, and I am a product designer here at Humana. I help design products so that it's like interfaces and how they flow, and I just, what? I'm sorry. Help is a generous word because I've only been here since July, and I work on a team of some very brilliant people who consistently have to break things down into like small, digestible pieces for me. But the moral support is phenomenal. So I see like several of them here, which is fantastic, although that they may not be moral support that they make pizza. So I'm a designer. I went to the University of Louisville for my Bachelor of Fine Arts. I graduated from the Hike Art Institute this May. The way design school at the Hike works, you take a year of prerequisite classes, and then you apply at the end of that first year, and everyone who gets in goes through the same classes together for the next 3 years. So you end up going, that's changing a little as some more optional classes are being added, but essentially you get to know the same 15 or 20 people very, very well. And the classes above and below you, because it's a very small group of people, it's very concentrated talent. So when I was in design school long ago, like this past spring, I was surrounded by this talent and youth and excitement and good design. It was everywhere, and it was all the time. So we talked about Paul Renner and Milton Glaser, Massimo Vignelli, April Griman, she shows up. Different classmates got to speak with Deborah Adler and Michael Beirut and David Carson. And we listened to a lot of Debbie Millman and Roman Mars, and we wore thrift store finds, and we drank organic tea and coffee, and we're totally hip and cultured. And if you don't recognize anyone on that list, like that's okay. You would recognize Paul Renner's typeface, and and Glazer's like iconography, and Vignelli's map, and Beirut's branding. April Griman was the first person to use the computer to create art, and Deborah Adler kicked off the pharmaceutical like rebranding that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with being at Humana. So essentially, that was my college experience, and it was amazing, and I'm sorry it was better than yours. But seriously, I started college bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I was excited to learn. I was really excited to excel. So I knew it was going to be hard, but I also knew that once I kind of got on a roll, things would be easier. I'd be amazing. Lots of people would want to look at what I made, and it didn't go quite the way I expected. So don't get me wrong, design school did a lot for me. I made a lot of awesome friends. Class of 2018, fantastic people. I got to experience a lot of really cool things. I got to learn a lot of amazing stuff. My program was not about preparing me for one specific role after graduation, but the underlying principles of problem solving, plus some very handy and design shortcuts, that could prepare me for any role I wanted to take on after graduating. So design goes a lot farther than the nice book cover or the cutting edge website. Design is a way of living. Design is looking at the processes and objects around me. That's not the one talking. Design for me is looking at the objects and processes around me, thinking deeply about the why and the how, and building up the good and the excellent. So it means it means constructing, improving, and creating good and creating for good. So design school taught me how to think deeply about problems. What's going on here? To think deeply about solutions. How can we make this answer better? And then how can we make that answer better? I learned there are always other options to explore. I learned you can do a lot more than you think you can, and a short deadline with a class-wide critique can get you there. I learned that I will screw up, but failure is only one step on the path to getting better. And most importantly, design school taught me about discomfort and being afraid. So despite what you might think, this talk is not about design school in all its rosy-hued retrospect. This talk is more about, design school is my framework, but whatever your framework is, it could be this job, it could be, I don't know, your weekend gardening club. This framework is a place that gives you for me, practical tools and training, surrounded me with people who achieved, who led by example, and who encouraged, who motivated with words. So, and lists. I love lists, and I made a lot of lists in design school, and I feel like you could see that in my design choices even now. So I couldn't see all that coming when I started, and I wouldn't have wanted all of that when I started. I went into my first year of school vibrating with confidence. I was embarrassingly unprepared and exhaustingly self-focused. I believed in this myth of design school, which I absorbed from the design websites I followed, that posted interviews with these uber successful art students who would gush about their artsy time at uni, and I filtered that through my own imagination and hopes and dreams. And I believed that design school would teach me in 3 years, if not everything I needed to know, at least the groundwork for everything I needed to know. And I believed that if I just tried hard, I couldn't ultimately fail, and that my ability would grow exponentially under equal applications of hard work and talent, because subconsciously I did believe that I was very, very talented. And I believed that, honestly, you either had talent or you didn't, and that I wouldn't have to try quite as hard as I pretended to think I would. And it was fun at first. Well, that's not true. It was fun. There were pockets of fun throughout all 4 years. And I'll always look back fondly on design school with memories I have post-fabricated and unpleasantness I have forgotten, but I very quickly found out that it was not all artsy-fartsy creativity 24/7. That design school, it was school, it was a discipline, and it was hard. So I found every day that it was hard, and that my classmates were talented, and that it was hard, and that I was tired and cranky and hated my work, and it was really, really hard. And I would compare myself to my classmates every time I came to class and I had to show my work. And it was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad time when I did that, because it was just discouraging. They all seemed to waltz through creating beautiful things and generally succeeding at everything they did. And I was struggling. I found it so hard, and they didn't. They were so good, and they had so many cool opportunities, and I was so proud of them, and I also hated their guts. Sometime in my second year, I came across this Juliet Cesar quote. She says, "In college and as a teacher, I've watched some students start and finish high, and others come in low and rise incrementally. Anyone who's gone to school or worked has seen this happen. What's the difference between these two people? It's not core ability. In many cases, the person who never improves actually has more core ability, but they have such a high need for achievement that they require constant positive feedback, so they stick to what they know." So I saw myself in this. I had such a high need for achievement that I was sticking to what I knew, except the problem was I came in low and stayed low. So I started to see myself in those who come in low and rise incrementally, because that gave me hope that I could actually improve. So I clung to this quote. I included it in the first process journal I ever created, the first book I ever printed, which was a semester process journal. And disillusioned about my lack of talent, I just clung tenaciously to my work ethic and this myth of design school, that if I put in enough work, I will get better. Because that's what design school promises, because Juliet Cesar says so. Because even if I came in low, the whole myth of design school promises that by the end of my degree, I will have dramatically improved, and maybe then I'll be as good as, and I would compare myself. Again, I compared myself to every single one of my 20 classmates at some point during those 3-4 years. I was like, oh, well, this one is so good at flow, this one is so good at layouts, this one has an eye for motion and grace, she's a great writer, he's technically skilled. And school became a place of discouragement and despair. I felt like a failure, not in this iteration I thought, I'll have to try I'll try another route kind of failure. Not even, wow, this is a bad idea, I need to scrap it all and start over. It was more like, I will never be worth a job or love or the pursuit of happiness because I'm just so bad at this. I was embarrassed to show my work. I would come to class and I would try hard, and I would work for hours on a project. I would come to class, be ready to show people, and then I would see someone else's project and I would immediately just lose myself in the depths of I suck, and this project is clunky, and the design is bad, and why did I try? And so then I would swing to this other end of the spectrum, and I would not put in any work for the next project at all, because why try? I'm just gonna fail. So I became a massive procrastinator and a underachiever. So by the final summer, I knew design school was tough, even for the designers who were good, the designers who worked hard and did well. I was at an all-time low. I wanted to avoid the hard things, take the easy way out, put off what I didn't want to do, and hide everything I didn't know. So if any of you have read Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, I was the definition of the fix. And for those of you who have not read it or have not heard of it, there are two kinds of mindsets she describes people as having. The fixed mindset is believing that your qualities are carved in stone, which creates an urgency to prove yourself over and over. This is versus the growth mindset, which is ultimately based on the belief that your basic qualities are the things you can change and cultivate through your efforts, that everyone can grow through application and experience. So Dweck goes on to say, so in one world, the world of fixed traits, success is about proving you're smart or talented, validating yourself. In the other world, the world of changing qualities, it's about stretching yourself to learn something new, developing yourself. So she says that in a fixed mindset, failure is getting a bad grade or getting fired because it means you're not already good enough. Whereas with growth, failure is not growing, not fulfilling potential. So according to these categories, those who go through life with a fixed mindset see effort as a bad thing because it means you're not smart or talented, whereas with a growth mindset, effort is what makes you smart or talented. So I hate it, and I honestly still find it difficult admitting when I don't know something. It was my constant terror that people would find out I didn't know something, because then that would prove to them that I was not smart or talented, because I didn't know this thing. But I was also lazy and finding out answers to things, and I had to Google it, and that was a pain. And so I just would sit around hoping the answers one day fall from the sky and hit me on the head so that I didn't even have to reach out and take it. So this final summer, our senior year, was the worst. To give you an idea of how bad it had gotten, I put off looking at a calendar for the last month or two of school because I didn't want to know how much time there was in the summer, because that would give me a finite amount of time in which to get projects done, and I didn't want to face that. So we were going on vacation the first week after school ended, and I was like, when I get back, then I'm gonna get on it. I will look at a calendar, I will get this stuff done, but not right now. I'm not gonna plan anything. I'm just gonna do it when I get back. Well, this is too much procrastination, even for me. And midweek, or that week on the beach, found me. Beach house behind me, ocean in front of me, my boogie board under my arm, and I am weeping because I am so stressed about the upcoming semester because I hadn't done any planning for it. Portfolio day was coming up, and I wasn't ready. So portfolio is our capstone class. You spend the entire semester, self-directed. You spend the entire semester going over all of your work from the previous 3 years and expanding the systems and planning a table for the big community presentation day where all of the local designers and a lot of designers from surrounding areas come to see what you've done and how much you've learned. And I was really stressed about that. I know I had screwed up so many things in so many ways. I didn't want to face my summer projects just to be discouraged by what my classmates had done when I came back in the fall. I didn't want to face them and realize how much they'd grown and how stagnant my own skills still were. I didn't want to face my professors because they genuinely cared for me and wanted good things for me, and I didn't want to see their disappointment when I struggled back to school in the fall with nothing to show for my summer. And I really didn't want to face portfolio day with the work ethic and attitude I was dragging around. So I realized I was setting myself up for the biggest failure of my life, complaining that I'm not there yet when I wasn't exerting myself to getting there. So my ignorance, procrastination, and overwhelmedness stemmed from fear. I was afraid. I was afraid of the unknown. I was afraid of the difficult, and I was afraid of inadequacy. So the fear comes when you have an external locus of control, when something else is in charge and you are floating helplessly down the river of faith and just waiting for things to happen to you. So to combat these three looming problems, I realized I needed to step up and realize that I was the one who was in charge and then actually change things. So I began the Great Process Journal of 2017, and this is like my favorite part of the story, because that's a little bit. So I resolved to keep analyzing what were seriously continual fears and struggles and successfully combat them by running a process journal over my summer with 2 objectives: challenging myself and documenting my thoughts in this process journal to see how far I'd come as I challenged myself, as a challenge itself. While I worked through the problems I challenged myself with. And actually, there were some side bonuses to this. So, accountability. It helps me actually produce work because I love writing and this would keep me interested in the projects. And also, who wants to get to the end of the summer with a processless process journal? So, like, avoiding that proof of my inability was like a motivation for me to like actually produce. I'm an inveterate navel gazer, and writing, like, you know, is to self-reflect and like process like what's going on in my head. And something I didn't want to admit to myself at the time, but was definitely there. I was hoping for a job from this. I was hoping that I would get to portfolio day, and I've had this legendary thing, this like great personal passion project on my table. And I had this whole rosy scenario in my head, like standing there with all of these like potential job offers in front of me, all these like potential employers, and they're just like, oh, this is amazing, and like they would all want to hire me, and I wouldn't be able to pick. It was just going to be so awesome, and I would finally prove to myself as well that I had that creativity and that spark, that ability somewhere in me to create something good. It didn't happen. So these main objectives did end up leading to some crazy outcomes, but outcomes I could never have predicted. So I wanted to explore new things this summer, and combined with the resolve to challenge myself, I started looking for learning opportunities. So at first this was reading more nonfiction, and then it was reading more nonfiction about things I didn't understand, or on perspectives I didn't agree with. I also started taking free online classes through Harvard's online class program, because you can do that. They're totally free, you just have to show up. My very first one was on the oldest recorded opera, Claudio Monteverdi's L'Orfeo, and both the class and the opera are magnificent, like 10 out of 10 would take again. So I watched a book design series / workshop on Creative Lab taught by one of my design heroes and another one of my design heroes, which was really inspirational and taught me a lot, because it doesn't get much better than a class taught by like 2 other design heroes. I began to reach out to designers to ask for help and input. I went to more events, I listened to industry professionals, I got their input and insight and experience on the field, and on their attempts to grow, and I tried to glean from that things that could help me grow. I like to thank people whose work I find particularly inspirational, or people whose work really resonates with me, and one of the designers I emailed actually emailed me back, and she sent me some really great resources that helped me in one of the projects that ended up making it into my process journal. And then she followed up in the fall, so that was June or July. She followed up in September to ask me how the school year was going, and like that sort of interaction I found really encouraging, because it reminded me that I was not alone, that there were people out there who struggled with similar things, and there were people out there who were rooting for me, even if I felt like a failure. I wasn't in my own little bubble, and this started a whole separate thought track on no man is an island, and my isolationist attitude was really hurting more than helping me. That's a whole other thing. So I was challenging myself, led to looking for new opportunities. Learning led to discovering new interests. And I got interested in HTML. It's not that hard. It feels like this like secret coding superpower when I'm writing like partially intelligible English. And so that led to reading about the front of the back end of design and what brings it all together. And that was about when I got interested in UI UX. Because I was like, instead of the actual building blocks, what are the concepts that make something intuitive or make something easy to use? So this is in itself crazy, because I had written, so this is my last year of school, I'd written 2 years before about how UI UX is never going to become my life passion, because I didn't understand it, and so I was afraid of it, and so I didn't look into it. I was like, no, I decided now, I'm not interested. But here's the really cool thing, like, all of this stretched my brain and my perspective on the world. So I was a lot happier, actually. I was more interested in the world, like, everything was so much more interesting all of a sudden. So I invented my own game. I call it the Do the Hard Thing, Challenge Yourself game trademark. So no one can steal that title. So if it was a good thing, if it was a learning experience or just a cool opportunity and I didn't want to because it was too hard or it was too scary or I'd have to parallel park, I had to do it. That was the rule. So I guess why I accepted the speaking slot. So it was at this point that I realized my definition of growth had changed. I once thought it was a linear trajectory where over time, like your ability would grow. And that no longer. Now I saw it instead as an expansion. This was more of a that's a very weird transition. I'm sorry, it didn't look like that when I had it like actually in but so an expansion, an unfurling like a plant where you spread out, you get wider and deeper and taller. So summer ended, we finished the journal, and it became more of a collection of personal project-related essays. It made me realize how much I loved writing about design and how this book was really in itself a representation of my own growth. It wasn't a static book because at the beginning I wanted to print it, but now it was more of a changing thing. It wasn't perfect. It would hopefully be getting better as I worked on it, and I wanted to keep adding to it. So I decided to publish it digitally, even though I had no idea how that was going to work, but I knew I could figure it out. And that's like the key phrase, like I knew I could figure it out, because that's such a mindset change from the way I started college. So I started researching ways to publish digitally, and I came across Matthew Butter's practical typography, which like no one has heard of, so that's cool. It had this gorgeous interface and was created with a markup language called Pollen. So having dabbled in HTML that infamous summer, I felt empowered to learn something totally new and out of my comfort zone. And it was far beyond my skill level. I knew next to nothing about computer languages or programming, and something about that challenged me to try it, like almost just because I couldn't and I wanted to do something that I couldn't do. So also I mentioned Pollen to my dad, and he's a software engineer, and so like every day he was like, so he started learning Pollen yet? And I was like, no, Dad. And so I finally just started learning Pollen. Kind of, so he would stop thinking me about it. On his tutorial site, Matthew Butter says it's for beginners, but I had to Google what the command line was, and I don't think that's quite the beginner he had in mind. However, I got through a fair bit until I realized, I loved this. I loved this. This was so cool. And I wanted to understand it on a deeper level, because that's the way curiosity is. Like, when you practice a little bit, you just want more, so it's kind of like crack. So remember those online classes? I signed up for an Intro to Computer Science class. So it's a recorded lecture series through Harvard with exercises, and actually you can get free feedback. So it's pretty tough for me because it's a different way of thinking, but I kind of love that it's a different way of thinking because who wants to think along the same track every day? So I talked about my newfound interest in UI UX stuff kind of a lot, and when my friend Amber was hired at Humana in product design role, she recommended me for the other open position. And a role doing exactly what I'd said 2 years before I didn't love. But it turns out you can be wrong about a lot of things, and that is how I got my first job. Which is something else. Design school gave me a network, so I guess the whole point of this talk is do actually go to design school, be part of a really talented class, and just, there you go, just scan. So, Marie Popova of Bright Pickings gave a commencement speech that so impacted me that I wrote down a couple paragraphs, and they've been on my wall above my desk for over a year. They're at eye level, I see them every day, and I have them almost memorized. So she's talking here about creating specifically jobs and value-providing jobs. And she says, you will often face the choice of construction and deconstruction, of building up and tearing down. Deconstruction alone, without construction to follow it, is hapless and lazy. Construction is far more difficult because it requires the capacity to imagine something new and better and to exert ourselves toward building it, even at the risk of failure. But that is also far more satisfying in the end. So once I thought it would be easier in the real world, and note the word easier because this was a different me with a different mind. The same fears of failure, embarrassment, and underachievement haunt me in real life. I will always be surrounded by more talented, more creative, more successful people. All I can do is focus on improving me. I can take control. I can face those fears, work hard, and pick the harder route. To fail is only one step further on the path to getting better. And it's part of the process. Learning how to try, to push myself harder, to explore options and be humble enough to ask for help. These are the lessons for growth I can take with me. was like super personal. I don't know if there are any questions or any comments. I don't know. Alex.
What you said about design sort of reminded me of the very first time I saw my first semester for speech school. I looked at all the classes and I was like, oh God, I don't know if I can do this.
But you got through it, and now you don't do math, so.
About a year into it, I was like, well, I'm a year in now, and I didn't know if I'd get this far, but let's keep going and see how far we can get.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Ta-da. What do you think?
You know, failure is relative also. Remember typing school.
Sure.
Remember high school typing. I was typing, 3 or 4 words a minute, tick, 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 tick. And they would play it with me, and everybody would go off to their 90 WPM. The teacher said, "You're failing. You're only at 40 words per minute." I'm like, well, I started with 0. You don't understand. And you're working on like I failed with 40. I'm so happy with myself. So there's a function of effort and time. I was thinking about that. There's a highway through Texas from Houston to Dallas. It's 45 miles. Now some people have to, and there's Texarkana, which is 45 degrees from Dallas. It seems like some people, like myself, I'm not down myself by any means, have to go through Texarkana to get through Dallas. It's a longer road, but you still get there. And there's more effort in that and more time involved, but you still get to the same place. So there's got to be a time component and effort when you talk about it. Some people put in more, some people have to put in more to get to the same place.
Yeah, shout out some solidarity. I went to art school myself as a sculptor, a blacksmith, and all of that good stuff, and doubled in design. And there was a weird sort of tension between the fine artists and the design artists. The design artists were thought of as sellouts by the fine artists. The fine artists were off in their own sort of, la-la land to the design artists. But seeing both of those at their best was actually pretty awesome. Later on, I went to teach design school at local tech. I went to school tech, and saw so many students come through, and they did exactly what you're talking about with the incremental growth. Some of them came in super duper talented and didn't move too much past that, but the ones that continued to grow throughout by the very end and the most impressive portfolios. It's persistence. It really is.
I was one of the students.
Those are the good days. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I was way too young to be teaching those classes, but it was just, I think once you've done it for a while and then you teach it for a while, you really learn it because your students will come up to you with the
One of those hard
most
things,
amazing questions. Yeah.
You started doing something and you weren't prepared for it and you got there.
You think you failed as a student, try teaching. They will all remind you exactly everything that you get wrong.
Well, maybe, oh yeah, one more.
I'm a big fan of continuous improvement myself, so it's great to see that mindset from fixed to growth. Really cool, so keep that up. Now that you are in Humana, since July, in what ways are you challenging yourself today with that growth mentality? How are you adapting to life in Humana in this design space? In what ways are you challenging yourself?
Okay. So at the very basic level, every day there are new challenges in my job, things that I am not prepared for, things I don't understand, and I just have to practice. That's where the asking questions comes in, because there are a lot of people who have the answer, who know more than I do, who've been here for longer, and I need to practice asking them. So it's challenging to just say, hey, I don't understand what you just said, can you explain that? And just risking looking dumb. In other ways, like this talk, this is the second time I've given this. The first time was at AIGA Global Design Week at the beginning of September. So that was a challenge because you had to volunteer for that. So I've been looking for more personal freelance projects to do, personal and freelance projects to do, volunteering my time. Also just saying what lessons have I learned. And in this case, it was what lessons have I learned and how can I share that, because their theme was growth. And I was like, oh, hey, I can speak to that. But also, what are skills that I would like to cultivate? And part of that learning is, so what can I be interested in next, and how can I get good at that? way. So like I've been taking, Amber and I together have been taking several programming courses, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, just to kind of encourage one another to keep learning. And I guess that's it. Just what's the next thing I can learn now that I've accomplished the last thing? Thanks so much, everybody.